Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. Today we are going to be strapping in for a wild ride through the world of blockchain security.
Yeah, that's right. And we're going to unpack why this matters to you, even if you think blockchain is, I don't know, something you order at a fancy coffee shop.
Okay, so picture this. Cybercrime is on track to hit a mind-blowing $8 trillion annually
hmm
by 2025.
Yeah.
That's basically like someone deciding to steal the entire global economy several times over.
Yeah. It's a staggering number. And what's fascinating is how much of that criminal activity is laser focused on blockchain technology,
Hmm.
which makes sense when you think about it. Blockchain is where people are putting their digital assets, from cryptocurrency to increasingly things like digital art and even contracts.
And we're using some pretty incredible training materials today to help us navigate all of this. We dug into a course called Certified Blockchain Security Examiner, CBSE Level 1.
Mhm.
It's offered by Allison, which is a huge online learning platform. And get this, the course is totally free.
Free and packed with insights,
Yes.
which is right up our alley. The course is designed to give anyone a solid grasp of blockchain security, regardless of their technical background.
Okay.
And what struck me right away is how the demand for this kind of expertise is, like, exploding in all sorts of
Not
industries.
just the tech world.
Not even close. We're talking major financial institutions realizing they need to up their game,
Yeah.
governments trying to wrap their heads around how to regulate all of this, even healthcare providers looking at how blockchain can revolutionize record keeping. Everyone's realizing that blockchain is changing the game.
But as with anything new and potentially revolutionary, there are going to be some growing pains, right?
Absolutely. And that's where understanding blockchain security vulnerabilities becomes crucial.
So are we talking about hackers breaking the actual blockchain technology itself?
That's the thing. It's actually much more nuanced than that. You see, blockchain itself is often incredibly secure.
Okay.
The real vulnerabilities often stem from human error or weaknesses in how blockchain systems are implemented.
Okay, so it's kind of like how a bank vault might be incredibly secure, but if someone forgets to lock it.
Exactly. The course uses the example of 51% attacks.
Mhm.
Imagine a single entity gaining control of a majority of a blockchain's computing power. This doesn't happen by some hacker in a hoodie cracking codes in the matrix. It usually happens by some group gaining control over a majority of the network's mining power, which, depending on the size of the network, may be easier than you think.
Hold on, mining. Like for gold.
Well, not quite like that, though it is a good analogy.
Okay.
Think of mining as the process that verifies and adds new transactions to the blockchain. It requires a ton of computing power. If one entity controls most of that power, they could potentially wreak havoc, even like rewriting transaction history.
That is kind of terrifying, especially as more and more of our lives become digital.
It is, and that's just one example. Another big one the course highlights is vulnerabilities in smart contracts.
Okay, before we go down that rabbit hole, can you remind me exactly what a smart contract is?
Of course. Imagine a traditional contract. But instead of being written on paper, it's written in code and lives on the blockchain. And the smart part is that it can automatically enforce the terms of the agreement. So let's say you and I have a smart contract for me to pay you for this awesome podcasting work. Once certain conditions are met, like me hitting publish on this episode, the payment is automatically released to you. No need for lawyers or middlemen.
That sounds incredibly efficient,
Yeah.
but also kind of risky if there are loopholes in the code.
You're catching on. And
Yep.
sadly, there are. These contracts, just like traditional contracts, can be written with flaws that can be exploited. The course talks about a chilling flaw called reentrancy, where a hacker could drain funds from a smart contract multiple times before it even realizes what's happening. Kind of like someone exploiting a glitch at an ATM to withdraw way more money than they have.
Yikes. So we've got these potentially revolutionary technologies with some pretty serious security concerns.
Yeah.
Where do we even begin to wrap our heads around all of this?
Well, luckily, that's exactly what this Allison course sets out to do. And in the next part of our deep dive, we're going to dig into some real-world examples of these vulnerabilities and how a deeper understanding of them can actually be your secret weapon in navigating the world of blockchain.
So we've talked about these potential blockchain vulnerabilities, but I have to admit, I'm still a little fuzzy on the details. Can you give us some real-world examples of how these things actually play out?
Absolutely. Remember that $14 billion lost to crypto crime in 2021?
Yeah.
Well, a big chunk of that stemmed from exploiting the very security flaws we're discussing.
Okay, so that's not hypothetical. That's real money, real people getting hit. What kinds of attacks were behind those losses?
One example that comes to mind is the DAO hack from back in 2016.
Okay.
It involved a decentralized autonomous organization, basically a company run on code that had a vulnerability in its smart contract.
So a coding error lets someone walk off with a bunch of money.
Not exactly walk off with. The hacker exploited a loophole in the code to drain millions of dollars worth of cryptocurrency from what was supposed to be this super secure system.
Yeah.
It really shook people's confidence in smart contracts at the time.
I bet. It
Hmm.
feels like every time I turn around, there's another story about a hack or an exploit. It's enough to make you want to stash your cash under the mattress.
I hear you. And that's why the certified blockchain security examiner material we're looking at is so relevant. It's not about, scaring people. It's about equipping them with the knowledge to ask the right questions and evaluate projects more critically.
So how does the course help with that? Does it
Hmm.
teach you how to code your own super secure blockchain system?
It's actually much more practical than that. One of the key takeaways is the importance of understanding the entire life cycle of a blockchain project,
Okay.
from its initial design all the way through to how it's maintained over time.
So you're saying it's not enough to just look at the technology itself in isolation?
Exactly. It's like if you're buying a house, you wouldn't just look at the fancy kitchen and call it a day,
Hmm.
right? You'd want to know about the foundation, the plumbing, the roof, and who built them. Same goes for blockchain projects.
So what kind of due diligence should people be doing?
The course encourages people to think like investigators, to ask tough questions.
Yeah.
Who's behind the project? What's their track record? Have their systems been audited by reputable third parties? How are they handling security updates?
Asking those questions is especially important since things are changing so rapidly in this space. What's considered secure today might be outdated tomorrow, right?
You got it. And that brings us to what I think is one of the most valuable aspects of this course. Its emphasis on continuous learning.
So it's not like you learn this stuff once and you're good to go.
Not at all. The blockchain landscape is constantly evolving with new technologies, new threats, and new regulations popping up all the time.
Right.
The real skill, and this is something the course emphasizes, is cultivating a mindset of continuous learning and adaptation.
So we're talking about blockchain security, not being a one and done kind of deal, but like an ongoing process. That makes sense, but it also sounds, I don't know, a little intimidating. Like, how are we supposed to keep up with all of this?
That's where I think a mindset shift comes in handy.
Yeah.
The training that we've been exploring really hammers home this idea that knowledge is power, especially in a fast evolving field like this.
Okay, but how do we translate that into action? Give us the cheat sheet.
Well, there's no magic shortcut, unfortunately.
Right.
But by grasping the core concepts of blockchain security, like those 51% attacks and smart contract vulnerabilities we talked about, you start to see the potential weak points.
Mm.
It's like learning the warning signs of a scam, right? You're less likely to fall for it.
So it's about being a more informed, skeptical even participant in this space.
Exactly. Question everything. Don't just jump into a project because it sounds cool or someone promises you'll get rich quick.
Right.
Dig a little deeper. Look at the team, the technology, the security measures they have in place.
And that brings us back to the so what factor, right? We've covered a lot of ground about like why blockchain security matters, but for the average person who's maybe just starting to dip their toes into this world, what's the big takeaway?
I think that's simple. This stuff affects you.
Yeah.
Blockchain technology is rapidly moving beyond just cryptocurrency. We're talking about its potential to revolutionize supply chains, voting systems, how we store and manage our digital identities. The list goes on and on.
So whether we realize it or not, blockchain is probably going to play a bigger and bigger role in our lives.
And the security of those systems,
Yeah.
that's going to have a direct impact on all of us. It's not just about protecting our money anymore. It's about protecting our data, our privacy, even our access to essential services.
Okay, so final thought for our listeners today. You've offered up some great advice about staying informed, asking the right questions. But in a world where the information is constantly changing, how do we make sure we're not getting left behind? How do we cultivate that mindset of continuous learning?
That's a great question to leave our listeners to ponder, I think. The world of blockchain and really technology in general is constantly evolving. Staying curious, seeking out reliable sources of information, and never being afraid to ask why will serve you well, not just in navigating the world of blockchain, but in navigating the world in general.
Wise words. Well, on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive into blockchain security. Until next time, keep asking those tough questions and stay curious.